The Rangers lay an egg, make life way too easy for Pyotr Kochetkov, and give up 2 back-breaking goals in a rough 6-1 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. What went wrong? We break it all down on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 974 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Rangers obviously coming up quite a bit short against the Carolina Hurricanes last night. There's no two ways about it. Just a bad night for the New York Rangers. Just didn't really get anything going. Made life way too easy on Pyotr Kochetkov, which I think is something that we certainly need to address to start off today's show. Just a quick disclaimer, I am battling a little bit of a cold right now, so if my voice sounds rough, that would be the reason for that. It's funny, I've been able to kind of avoid this the entire fall, the entire winter, and maybe that game last night was the thing that finally pushed me over the edge there, but just a bad night for the Rangers overall. And as I mentioned just a second ago, you've got a goaltender matchup of Igor Sheseterkin on fire lately coming into this game against Pyotr Kochetkov, who granted has played better recently, but as soon as you look at that goalie matchup, you think, okay, advantage Rangers, big advantage for the Rangers. And the way this game started kind of continued all throughout the entire game, if we're being completely honest here, and that is the fact that the Rangers just did not make life difficult enough on Pyotr Kochetkov. The Canes goalies have really, really struggled this season. It's been by far, I would say, their biggest weakness. It's been the biggest reason why they did not get off to the start this season that they were hoping to get off to. Steve Valiquette during one of the intermissions was talking about this, and he mentioned that Canes goalies have allowed 20 bad goals. The goals that you absolutely have to stop if you're an NHL goalie, and that is the most in the league. And again, Kochetkov, he's been part of that. He's been better lately, and in fact, after this win for him last night, he has now allowed 2 goals or fewer in 7 of his last 9, so it does look like he's turned the corner. But even so, when you are aware of the fact that this team, the goalies have really struggled, you've got to make life a little bit more difficult. Rangers just didn't do that. Easier said than done, obviously, but there was never enough pressure on Kochetkov. The Rangers really struggle with the Canes trap or a modern-day trap, whatever you want to call it. There were too many Rangers in this game that were basically just trying to skate through everybody. They'd get kind of a rush up the ice, but the Canes would all be back. They'd have like 4 guys right around the blue line there, and you'd have, Mika did it once, Blake Wheeler did it once, Trocheck did it at least once. He almost pulled it off, actually. But a lot of Rangers just trying to basically challenge the entire Canes defense by themselves, just go right up the center of the ice, and just didn't work. They would either get stood up at the blue line or wouldn't be able to make it to the net, or somebody would knock the puck away from them. It just wasn't going to work. Every now and then you can pull a rabbit out of the hat when you challenge a team's entire defense and make all these crazy moves and get to the net and score, but that just wasn't going to work, or at least not with any sort of consistency in a game like this against a good team like the Canes that is probably playing its best hockey, the last handful of games, however far you want to go back. I believe that was their 4th or 5th win in a row last night. And it's interesting because the Rangers actually outshot the Canes 29-27 in this game. And you look at that and you think, okay, well, 29 shots, that's not like an anemic total. It's not outstanding either, but it's not bad. You can win a game getting 29 shots on goal. But again, there just was not a lot happening here. The shots were way too easy to stop. They were coming from areas on the ice that, you guys watch hockey. When somebody's along the boards, and shooting from an impossible angle, they're not going to score. When somebody's way back at the blue line and there's no traffic in front of the net, no chance of a reflection or a rebound, that's not going to go in either, with very, very few exceptions. So the shots just weren't coming from high danger areas or even what I would call medium danger areas. There was no traffic in front of Kochetkov. Not too many deflections for the Rangers. I know that Kreider did score on a deflection on the power play, or it was just after the power play for the Rangers' only goal of this game, but that was about it as far as good deflection chances. There were no second chance opportunities. And again, Kochetkov played well, take nothing away here, but Can anybody that watched that game last night, can you point to like a great save that he made, one where he's diving across the crease or kicking out his pad at the last second, or maybe there's one where there's kind of like a scramble in the crease and he's got to hold his ground and dives on top of the puck? There was nothing like that. None of that happened at all in this game. You can't really point to like an outstanding highlight reel save or really anything close to that, I don't think, unless I just forgot about one. It's possible, but even if that did happen, it didn't happen nearly enough in this game last night between the Rangers and the Canes. I will say, the Panarin line, I thought at least looked dangerous in this game. They were skating hard and creating some good scoring opportunities, and they ended up getting the puck at the net quite a bit, which is what the Rangers probably should have done a little bit more of in this game. Again, going up against a goalie who has struggled at times this season, but Trocheck ended up with 5 shots on goal. Lafreniere had 3, Panarin had 2, and Panarin did have an assist in this game for what that's worth. But something that a lot of you guys have been pointing out lately is the Rangers, and it's something that we've gone back to every now and then on here. They're not getting enough offense out of their bottom 6, and that could not have been more true in this game last night. This game, it felt like this game could have gone 12 periods, and you weren't going to see anybody in the bottom 6 score a goal. I'm exaggerating a little bit to make the point, but consider this. The Rangers' bottom 6 forwards, they combined in this game for a grand total of 1 shot on goal. 1 shot on goal from 6 of your forwards, and it was Barclay Goodrow that had that only shot. I know there's a lot of people saying that, the Ranger bottom 6 isn't good enough. I think they play well enough when it comes to defense, and when it comes to, offense, for me, not so much the third line, but the fourth line, I always kind of look at it as, well, eventually they'll get a couple goals here and there. Eventually it'll happen. It's not really happening for the Rangers, and I don't think that that's like a death sentence come playoff time, but there are a lot of really good teams that tend to get more offensively out of their bottom 6 than the Rangers do. And that's a topic we'll dive into in greater detail in a future episode. Just want to kind of make mention of that right now. Again, I don't think any of them are bad players. I think they all have their role. Most of them are very good defensively, but there's just not a lot of offense when it comes to the Rangers bottom 6, at least not right now. And, we're talking about the goalies here. On the flip side of everything with Kochetkov, you've got Igor Sheseterkin. Wasn't his best night either. He ended up allowing 6 goals on 27 shots. He had some issues handling the puck in this game, which is not like Igor at all. There was an early instance in this game where he was basically just trying to clear the puck out of there, turned it over to the Canes, quick pass in front. Canes had a goal and opportunity to score here thanks to the Igor turnover. But Igor made what was actually probably his best save of the night, sliding over to his right, making a great point-blank stop there, and keeping the score at 1-0 in favor of the Canes at that point in the game. That wasn't too long after the Canes had scored. And then there was another issue where Gustafsson left the puck behind the Ranger net, and there was some big-time miscommunication between Igor and Braden Schneider, and that led to a goal. We're going to talk about that one in greater detail in just a little bit here. But a couple of soft goals, what I would probably call soft goals against Igor Sheseterkin in this game. The Chatfield goal, I thought, that made it 4-1, and also probably the Svechnikov goal that made it 5-1. Both were stoppable, especially the Chatfield goal. Initially, I was thinking well, okay, he had to have been screened there, but I don't know. I mean, Chatfield just kind of shot from kind of near the boards and kind of near the blue line there, and it just kind of got through Igor and went into the net, and the goal was scored, and that made it 4-1. And not too long after this, Svechnikov powered his way to the net, and good player, and obviously he finished his chance. But this is one that I think Igor stops when he's at his best as well. So look, Igor's been awesome lately. 5 fantastic games in a row coming into this one, 5 straight wins coming into this one. We'll give him a little bit of a break here. It's not like his bad play is the only reason why the Rangers lost this game. Far from it. Nobody really was at their best in this one. And you just hope that the Rangers do what they've been doing all season. That's bounce back from a bad performance. And they'll obviously have the opportunity to do just that on Thursday night when they play host to the Blackhawks. So we're going to keep everything going here. I want to go through a sequence late in the first period, and then also into the second period. This, to me, was kind of the backbreaking sequence of this game. Up to this point, I don't think the Rangers had played all that poorly. Hadn't played great either, but obviously they were still in the game. And this is kind of when things went south and really got away from them. Like I said, a couple of backbreaking goals scored by the Canes. And we're going to get to all that stuff in just a second here. First, though, we definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets. Win or lose, the app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We also just want to let everybody know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. And for the everydayers, our next episode is actually already recorded. We talk a little bit of the World Juniors action and the Ranger prospects that are still playing in that tournament. And we also get into what the Ranger lineup is going to look like and who might be the odd man out or odd men out once everybody gets healthy, if everybody gets back healthy. And, there we're talking about Kako and Hito. Once they get into the lineup, what will their roles be? Who will they play with? And who at whose expense will that be as far as, being in the lineup every single night? But that's tomorrow's episode. For right now, let's go ahead and talk about what I thought really kind of broke the Rangers' backs in this game, because things weren't really bad up until these two goals were scored. But once these two goals by the Canes were scored, everything was kind of going south. So basically, it's 1-0, getting pretty late into the second period. And we get a goal for the Canes that makes it 2-0, goal by Svechnikov. Basically, the Canes are on a power play here at the end of the first period. Like I said, already up 1-0. There's a penalty on Trouba. Igor Sheseterkin, again, wasn't his best night, but he made a couple of good saves in a row here. There was a redirection save by Igor, a couple of saves on some rebound attempts as well. But the ensuing faceoff was won by the Canes, and the Rangers never touched the puck. You've got Aho passing across the ice to Svechnikov in the right circle, and Svechnikov shoots and scores on the short side with 29 seconds to go. That made it 2-0. Aho, by the way, every time he touched the puck, was hearing it from Ranger fans, and that will be the case every single game that he plays in Madison Square Garden between now and the day he decides to hang up his skates. Ranger fans don't forget, and they clearly did not forget in this game either. But this was a tough goal to give up because, again, it wasn't a great first period for the Rangers, but you could kind of live with everything that had happened. I didn't think either team really did a whole lot offensively. There weren't any of those, great second chance opportunities. The Rangers at times a little bit sloppy with the puck in the first period, but kind of a bend but don't break first. That they were defensively responsible for the most part. Not much going on offensively, but you know what? The period ends 1-0. You go into the locker room. Okay, let's regroup. Let's come back out and let's get it done. And it's very believable that the Rangers can do that because the proof is in the pudding. The Rangers have 12 come from behind wins this season, which is the most in the NHL. And that being the case, down 1-0 after one period, there's no panic. There's no panic from these players, these coaches, the fans either. But to give up that goal on the power play there, that was a tough one. That was a tough way to go into the break there. And obviously the Canes tend to be a good defensive team and just a good team in general. So that, the task in front of you just becomes a little bit more daunting. Now, the good news is that the Rangers did pretty early in the second period. They came out, were playing a little bit better, and they end up scoring a goal to cut the lead down to 2-1. You had Trocheck, he gloves down a bad pass by the Canes. He had a great opportunity here. Takes a shot. It was stopped. Panarin had a shot deflected out of play. He had a chance to bury the rebound. Did not happen. But then the next shift, Miller and Mika both had chances, and the Canes take a slashing penalty. So this kind of sets the stage for the Rangers to come back in this game. And they did not score on the power play here, but it was shortly after the power play had expired. You got Panarin making a pass back to Trouba at the blue line. Long shot from the point by Trouba. Kreider's in front. He deflects it into the net. And just like that, 2-1. And, you crowds back into it. The Rangers are feeling it a little bit. And you think, okay, here we go. It's going to be another come from behind win. Unfortunately, it's only about 2 minutes after this goal was scored. You had miscommunication between Igor Sheseterkin and Braden Schneider that really, really hurt the Rangers. So basically, Gustafsson has the puck. He's being chased behind the Ranger net. He's got somebody on him. He leaves it there, I think, for Schneider. Unfortunately, the puck kind of went in front of the net, so it wasn't a great play by Gustafsson here either. Puck ends up in front of the net. You've got Igor reaching out to play the puck, but then he kind of pulls his stick away from it, and Schneider was about to pick it up, but then he saw Igor reaching for it and decided not to. So now the puck's just laying there, and nobody has it. Now the Canes, there's a Hurricane player bearing down on Igor, so Igor sees what's just happened, and he improvised as well as he could here. He basically just reached out, one hand on his stick, and just kind of poked the puck into the corner, which probably beats just about anything else that Igor could possibly do on this play. Unfortunately, though, the Canes got right to the puck in the corner, pass in front, and the goal was scored. A bad goal. And Joe Micheletti mentioned this on the broadcast, and I had the exact same thought when it happened. You don't see this out of the Rangers. You don't see bad mistakes like this, mental mistakes, this kind of like just true carelessness with the puck. And again, I mean, it's going to happen once in a while, right? There's 82 games. But I think in some ways it also kind of makes you appreciate the clean brand of hockey that the Rangers have played this year. If you're going to beat the Rangers, you got to beat the Rangers. You got to play your A game. They're not going to beat themselves. This play here, of course, kind of an exception to that rule. And honestly, even if this didn't happen, I mean, you never know because it's 2-1. Maybe the Rangers come back and they win this game. But even if this goal wasn't scored, the Canes had the better of play for almost the entire game. So I happen to think that the Rangers probably would have lost this game anyway. But regardless, just a backbreaking goal and just a disheartening goal. The Rangers have just gotten back on the Martinook goal here that made it 3-1. The Rangers have just gotten back into the game, and it was basically all for naught. And just like that, the Canes are up 3-1, and they were well on their way to eventually winning this game. And it's just very disheartening because you know the Rangers can come from behind, but when you keep shooting yourself in the foot against a good team like this, a team that's, again, is playing its best hockey of the season recently, it's usually not going to end well. And it obviously did not end well for the Rangers in this game either. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to turn our attention to the third period of this game, which was probably the worst period for the Rangers. Honestly, and again, this is an exception to the rule thus far this season for the Rangers as well. But this is a game where I think the Rangers honestly got worse and worse the longer it went. And Peter Laviolette was not a fan of their third period as well. We're going to have his comments in just a second. A couple other things to talk about as well. We'll get to all that in just a second here. First, though, definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy. Awesome feature, by the way. So you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here and kind of wrap up today's show by talking about what was just a really bad third period for the Rangers. And this is what Peter Laviolette had to say about, how everything went down in the third period for the Rangers. If I'm going to go after a period, it's the third period. I hate it. They played a simple game. They meaning the Canes. They played a simple game. They flipped it out. They put it behind us. We got caught turning pucks over and chasing down things, trying to chase the game. The third period was not who we are or who we want to be, and that's where we'll focus. And yeah, I think especially the way the third period started was basically a disaster. You're down 3-1, and it is an uphill battle against a good defensive team like this, but it's still within reach. The Rangers, again, they have shown that knack for coming back. But the way the third period started, whatever hope remained, it was pretty much gone about 3 minutes into this period. So the Rangers had a power play. It carried over from the second period to the third period. Just not a whole lot happening here. I mean, the Canes defended well. You got to give credit where it's due, but as soon as this power play ended for the Rangers, just kind of a goal out of nowhere for the Canes. This is the one by Chatfield, the one that made it 4-1. It happened only a minute and 33 seconds in the third period. And the one that I thought Igor probably should have come up with, he was not able to do so. A couple of passes at the top of the Ranger zone, a couple of good passes, but a stop that probably should have been made by Igor. It was not made. And so 4-1 Canes, just like that. And then just a minute and 23 seconds later, you've got Svechnikov scoring his second goal of the game. He gets to a puck in the neutral zone, was able to lift Ryan Lindgren's stick, went to the net and scored, made it 5-1. And that was it. I mean, just at that point, there's 17 minutes or so, but the Rangers are down by 4 goals. It's not been their night. They've basically gotten dominated for just about the entire game. I mean, maybe a couple good stretches here and there, but for the most part, the Canes had the better of play. And just a very lethargic rest of the game for the Rangers. They were just kind of there. There wasn't a whole lot going on. And a couple of, or I guess there was just one more goal by the Canes after that. But just kind of lethargic, not really having any energy, no jump in their game, no flow to their game, no good scoring opportunities, just not much of anything. It was just a big nothing burger the entire third period for the Rangers. The only good news when you lose a game like this is, I mean, they all count the same, right? If you lose, overtime losses count different, but you know what I mean. When you lose like this in regulation, they all count the same, and you have an opportunity to respond to it. And, you lose like this, there's not like that one play that you can point to or that one bad pass or that one call that the ref missed or anything like that. The Rangers got their butts kicked in this one. It's basically just that simple. And for the most part, the Canes had the better of play in every single facet of the game. One other stat I want to throw at you guys here. Molly Walker posted this on Twitter. So the Rangers, obviously, they're off to a fantastic start this season. As we've documented on here, they've only lost back-to-back games once the entire season. This, however, was their 5th time where they lost by 4 or more goals, and their 7th time they've lost by 3 or more goals. So there haven't really been a lot of close losses for the Rangers, which I guess is good because that almost suggests that, like, these losses are happening when it's just not their night kind of thing. And they're in close games. They tend to win them. They don't lose them. And on top of that, this is only their 11th loss of the season, which is the fewest in the NHL. Everybody else has 13 or more losses, combining regulation and overtime losses. But again, when you lose like this, I think it does make it that much easier to just kind of let go of it. Obviously, the Rangers have to get back to work and get back on the saddle, so to speak, here. But again, you're not going to lose sleep dwelling about like one missed opportunity for the Rangers, one bad call by the refs, whatever the case might be. And that's kind of where I'm at with this one. Just a bad night, and there's not really a whole heck of a lot that can be done at this point other than just bouncing back in the next one. I also want to talk about a couple of the extracurriculars that happened in this game. We know there's bad blood between these teams. It's been that way for a while. The Canes knocked the Rangers out of the playoffs in the bubble playoffs, the best of 5 qualifying round, and the Rangers they weren't really a playoff team that year. I mean, I know they were in the tournament, but they were in 11th place in the Eastern Conference, and circumstances obviously dictated that we had a very unique playoff tournament that season. But the Canes took care of business there, and then the Rangers came storming back a couple of years ago against the Canes, knocked them out of the playoffs, and basically embarrassed the Canes on their home ice in Game 7, winning that one. I think the final was either 5-1 or 5-2, something like that. But the Rangers had it in hand the entire way. So there's that. But then there's also earlier this season, that really kind of awkward collision between Fox and Aho. And I know some people didn't like it. To me, it was just an awkward collision. I don't think Aho did anything malicious here. After that game, Trouba was talking about it. And he said that, he thinks that maybe Aho should have had to answer the bell. Alexis Lafreniere was challenging him to a fight a little bit later in that game. Trouba was even joking, like, every time I do something, I have to fight somebody. So, and Trouba also made it clear that Aho didn't necessarily have to fight Trouba himself. So that would probably be a mismatch. It would be a mismatch, but he had to fight somebody, and Aho didn't do it. So now, as I mentioned earlier, Aho will be booed every time he touches the puck in Madison Square Garden from now until the end of his career. But yeah, I mean, in this game, there was certainly some chippiness. You had Mika Zibanejad, of all people, barking at Svechnikov on the bench. The two of them were apparently going back and forth. You also had a stare down between Will Cooley and former Ranger Brandon Lemieux. I mean, Lemieux, he was here for a little while. We know he likes to chat a little bit and mix it up. And we also had toward the end of the game, apparently there was an exchange between Lindgren and Lemieux. They were kind of barking back and forth on the bench. And Lindgren, I only know this because of John Giannone, but basically Lindgren was getting on Lemieux and basically talking smack to him about the fact that he hasn't really played that much this season. Lindgren said something like, "What is this, your 5th game this season?" And it was actually Lemieux's 12th game, but he's referencing the fact that Lemieux, more often than not this year, has been a healthy scratch for the Hurricanes. So a lot of smack talk going both ways and some physicality on the ice as well. Trouba with a big hit on Seth Jarvis, knocked him down to the ice. You had, this was bad. I don't know how this wasn't a penalty, but this is in the 3rd period. Chatfield cross-checks Blake Wheeler from behind right into his own goalie. I mean, Chatfield should really watch what he's doing here because the Canes are finally getting some decent goaltender play, and he's knocking an opponent into his goalie with a cross-check from behind. So Wheeler got up and said something to him, and as fate would have it, the very next shift, a couple of seconds into the shift, Wheeler ends up getting called for an offensive zone trip, which it was a trip, but this is right after Wheeler did not draw a penalty after getting cross-checked in the back right into the Canes goalie. So I don't know, figure that out. Wasn't the best night for the refs either, but it's not even worth our time because even if it was a bad night for the refs, it's not going to swing the game 5 goals in one direction or the other. And obviously the Rangers lost this by 5 goals. So it is what it is. I guess if there's going to be a night of bad officiating and some calls that go against the ref, might as well be in a game where they're not playing well anyway and losing by the deficit that they were indeed losing by. You also had a situation later in the game. Lafreniere and Nietzsche kind of got tangled up in the neutral zone and both fell to the ice. Nietzsche then slashed Lafreniere in the ankle as they were both getting up, and Lafreniere wanted to do something about it. Lafreniere's been chippy in these games against the Canes this season. You get a play stoppage. You had Cooley stepping up to Nichas. Nothing happened, though. I feel like the way it's gone this season, we're probably going to see some gloves drop in the next matchup between these two. At one time or another, eventually, it's definitely going to happen. We'll kind of see what happens there. Only other thing I wanted to mention here, and I haven't seen any definitive updates, which makes me think that both players are okay, but Bonino had to go to the Ranger locker room once, and then he came back, and then he went there again, and then he came back again. So I don't know. I don't know if there was an injury or an equipment issue or anything like that. I didn't really see anything circulating on social media about that. And Tyler Pitlick apparently also went to the Ranger locker room in the third period. So I would assume that they're both okay, just given the fact that there hasn't really been anything definitive said about either player. But we'll obviously keep our eye on that for the next game. I figure we could pretty much call it there for today, though, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.